welcome to Office Hours, guys. I think this is edition number 13, and last Office Hours was the MCP release, and we've been hard at work developing newer AI features. Really excited to showcase this to you all. So without further ado, let's just get started. All of you know that right now the cloud, CI/CD, and all the sort of tool chains that we have are sort of fragmented, and that's why we actually built Facets, which is an orchestrator of all your tool chains. Right. So all of you currently must be on either one of the clouds using some sort of Kubernetes workloads and different tool chains for your observability, monitoring, etc. Right. And Facets is the orchestrator above it. And our overarching theme is that to use AI agents in a secure way for your infrastructure, you need an orchestrator. Right. So AI agents directly interacting with your infrastructure or your tool chains will cause many problems because there are no guardrails, there is no context, or it doesn't know how to interact with the other tool chains, right? And that's where Facets comes in, where Facets is the orchestrator that has the entire context of the different tool chains available. It has the data, and it also has policy and guardrails to ensure that you're not crossing a certain limit, right? So these are some of the agents that we had. In our previous demo, we saw the Terraform authoring agent using the MCP, and this Office Hours we have released the Kubernetes agent, which is used for debugging. Some of you have already started using it really actively, and we're really glad to see the response. So we just wanted to show you in a live demo how it would look. So without further ado, let me go into the live demo. So yeah, over to you, Anuj.
Yeah, thanks, Adi. The Kubernetes agent simply has access to your kube config. So typically as a user of Facets, you'll be used to downloading the kube config from this page, and you're running your kubectl commands or using any dashboard, K8s. And we also provide within the product flows to access your Kubernetes APIs, the pods and all. But this uses the same kube config. So the first point is that your guardrails will be ensured, right? So your session users permission will be ensured with this. So if you do not have right permissions on the Kubernetes cluster, you won't be able to do anything from here because it uses the same kube config to run your commands. And yeah, so that is the main concern that typically users have with this. So that is the flow that we bring to avoid unauthorized access for that. And other than that, what it has access to is you can run kubectl commands, you can run Helm commands, and you can exec into your pods and all that. So all that is supported via this, and all that is within the context of your Kubernetes cluster. So the main use case that you would say would be natural language debugging. So let's just try to investigate our cluster, what's up, what's going on. So I'll just ask it to list pods for now. List pods in the default namespace, let's say. So internally it calls the tools to run the kubectl commands effectively. You can check what commands are being run here, right? And so the core, use case that will solve most people's problems would be debugging these issues, right? So probably let's say you can see that alert manager Prometheus operator alert manager 0, right? This pod restarted once. So let me see what's wrong there. This pod seems to have restarted once. What was the issue? Right, what it did was it did a describe of the pod and it figured out what was the issue. Seems like on the startup it failed. It expected this file, but the sidecar was supposed to populate that file. That file wasn't populated yet, so it failed once, and then the next time it ran, it started. So probably some minor bug there that needs to be fixed. And yeah, so probably the next thing would be that it has access to write as well. So if you want to make some changes here, right? Here we are just doing a read only operations. If you want to do some write access as well, you can proceed with that. So and it has Helm access. So let's check out the Helm deployments that we have, right? So it's able to list these, right? And the Redis seems to have failed. So let's see what's wrong there. It suggests you commands to run as well if you want to run them manually, or you can ask it to run it for you. It will do the same thing. So it has access to kubectl as well as Helm. It seems to be checking the pods, the PVC, the STS. Okay, right. So seems like the Redis was configured. That's done from our Facets UI with the request of 1.1 GB and the limit is of 1 GB, and it refuses to admit a pod. Right. So let me ask it to fix it for me. So typically what you'll do here is that you'll edit it from the Facets UI, right? Because you'll make the override and you'll fix it there. But let's say you just want to quickly do it from Helm itself. It will do it for you. So here what it says is that it will update this, and given that it is a write command, it will ask for my approval. Let's see what it runs. Right. Helm upgrade, Redis per cache. So I think this gives an overall idea of what capabilities it has, right? And just to be sure, if you do not have write access to the cluster, you won't be able to do it because it uses your own kube config, the one of the session user that is logged in, right? Let's see if it's able to fix it. So what I'd done right before the demo was that I'd increased the memory of it to 1.1 in the overrides. So what your ideal fix would be that you'd revert the override back. But this is purely in context of kube config. So it will make the Helm change here itself. Right. It seems like all the pods are running. Right. Seems like it's resolved now. So yeah, I think this is a quick debugging example that we have. Any other use cases would involve probably just, going through the cluster. Your daily activities would involve looking at the clusters and all, right? You will see your pod status, health, patching your PVCs, increasing their size and all. So all this can be solved directly from here. Yeah, I think this is a decent introduction to this. You can try it out and let us know.
Can the AI agent analyze historical logs or just live data?
Right. So, so whatever is available in Kubernetes, it can do it, right? So historical logs, I think if you're using Loki, let's say, those won't be in Kubernetes, right? They'll be somewhere else, and you need to access them via the Grafana dashboard. So it should not be possible unless the logs are available within the pod itself. So at this current point, it will only be able to access whatever the Kubernetes cluster can access. And say your logs are in S3 or something, you'll have to query from them. So ideally it will be from Grafana and all. Right.
Yeah, and the next question is, which we can actually try out in real time here, is I think one user wants us to ask which pods are using the most CPU over the last. So yeah, over to you, Anuj.
You can try this out in your clusters as well. Right, it's running the query for you. Right, so the query it's running is, these will be typically Prometheus queries that you'll have. So I think you have the Prometheus pod. So it's trying to get it from there. Let's see if it's successful or not. So these kind of stuff you can try out yourself on your clusters as well, right? So what are its capabilities? What is it able to do? What is it not able to do, right? That will be, you'll get a feel for it, right? So eventually it figured out that it needs to run this, and this seems to be the output, right? So this, it's able to tell you that this is provides the current usage, not the historical. For the true last star data, you need Prometheus, right? So it doesn't have access to Prometheus. So whatever is the Kubernetes config, only that it has access to, right? So Prometheus it won't have access to unless it's part of the config of your Prometheus pod itself. Yeah, I think that should answer the question, right? Yeah, I think we have another question, right?
Yep. So I think just quickly show the AI agent window on portal. So if you have like a quick few minutes, let's just give one more quick walkthrough, right, for the folks, just to summarize how to use the agent. Yeah.
Right. So this is the chat. So this, if I close this, right, this is in our environment overview page, and this is how our chat would look like. So I asked it to list pods. It's able to list the pods and all, and it gives me a summary. So what tool it's calling, you're able to see the args that it calls it with. We tried a few things. We tried to debug a non-ready Redis pod, right, and it fixed it for me. It took access and all that, and right, it did a Helm upgrade, and if it eventually it checked the pods and they were running after that. So earlier they were failing, and similarly, I think someone asked it to check the which pods were using the most CPU over the last hour. So it ran this effectively, kubectl top pods sort by CPU, and the response that it got, it showed us here. So whatever data it has, it is able to show it to us here. Hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's pretty much. Yep. I think we have two questions. The first one is, how is it different than K8s, GPT, K-agent sort of tools? Are there any other options to add other MCP tools? Yeah, I think two questions.
So right now, there's not, I mean, it's not configurable at this point, right? What we have built is that our tools are in a private repository right now, so it's not exactly public. Maybe I think if people want to build around this, I think we can expose it, the functionality outside of it. So the main value that we bring here is that it's within our product itself, right? So the kube config and access. So our RBAC allows only certain tools. Let's say the Kubernetes RBAC system has, let's say, only you allow only certain commands. So even if you don't have access, you won't be able to run those. So that is the main value that we bring by putting it into our product. But the tools themselves, right, we can probably bring them outside and probably even have support to have other MCP tools within this agent itself. So we'll in the future we'll have more agents which will have different tools available for them, right? Something that can operate our product and all that. So all those will also be part of that. And compared to K8s GPT, or I've used K8s GPT, so it's fundamentally it has does a bunch of the same things. So we have a couple of agents in our background, and it is like an orchestrator for us. So but what it brings is that what we the kube config that you give, right, it has context of that itself instead of putting anything there. And yeah, but effectively you can say K8s GPT will have some of the same things inside of it. And K-Agent I haven't used. I'll have to see what that does. But I think there'll be similar things.
I think this is an interesting one. Is it possible to integrate with Cursor by any way?
Right. Not in the current state. So right now what we have built is we've built it for the UI, but probably we can expose the tools themselves as, let's say, an MCP server or something, and then you can use them, right? So that won't involve your kube config, right? So kube config, you'll have to automatically. So what we do is that whenever you open your environment, we inject the kube config automatically. That I think won't be possible if you do it via Cursor, but at least we can provide the tools that we have, right? We have tools that restrict. So basically the main functionality that we build is that we restrict the CLI command that you run to kubectl or helm, and then you can also exec into pods. So we have built some functionality around that. So that might be useful. And I think let's see if we can make it available via, let's say, MCP tools or something. That would be useful if people need that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it sort of tells us that there's a lot of native IDs and tools that people are using. And so getting it there would be a great way to increase usage for these guys as well. So, like you said, I think MCP would be a great way to get that done. I think the next question we have right now is, does it also help create JSON files for new apps in the clusters?
Right. So on Facets, what we typically do is the JSON file is created in the blueprint itself, and then via the release it is applied. So if you directly want to do a kubectl apply, then of course that is possible. But writing blueprints and all from Facets, that is not not within the scope of this agent specifically. So that is something we'll bring in the future, right? So building blueprints, building modules and all those are functionalities that we plan to bring into the product itself. For stuff like this, we, at least for the modules one, we have an MCP server that we have released. But for building the resource JSONs, right, you've mentioned to create JSON file for new apps in the cluster, so that is still not available yet, but I think that will be one of our major use cases we'll cover in the future. But if you want to directly do a kubectl apply of a pod or something, that is possible from here.
But yeah, we are really excited for you guys to use the current agent and give us more feedback. Please feel free to reach out to any of us from the product or the engineering teams. And we are really sort of excited to build more of these AI agent capabilities and put them in your hands. So if you have any feature requests for specific use cases that you want our agents to do, we'd love to hear from you. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't see. We'll be putting more of the use case videos on our LinkedIn page so that you will get more insights on how to use this. And we'd also love to hear from you on what are more use cases that you'd like to see. The floor is always open. You can contact any of us from the engineering team, and see you guys soon with more features on the next Office Hours. Thank you for joining.